Welcome back, everyone. We are so excited to have you here. This episode, we will be exploring what it was like for my mom, who lived in the US for 16 years and then emigrated. Is it emigrated or immigrated?
Do you know, I don't know.
I think emigrated is enter and immigrate is exit. I'm not sure. But what it was like for you moving back home to the UK after you had lived in America for 16 years, and what it was like for me as a 10, 11-year-old becoming an expat in the UK, and what it's like even now. So to give you guys a little bit of history about how we came back to the UK. So we left the US on June 18th, 1998, and we arrived in the UK on June 19th, 1998. I vividly remember being told by you and Dad that this was just going to be a temporary, brief stay in the UK, and that in a couple years or so we would be moving back to the US. Now, this year is going to be 25 years in June. You kind of lied to me because this feels like a very long 25-year vacation.
Other parents will understand where I'm coming from here, is that was our intent at the time. But life happened, things happened, and we're still here. So that was something we really did say that that's what we were going to do, because I remember telling other people that.
Right, so it wasn't just me that made that up. You did say that you only saw us being here for a couple years, and then you were probably going to move back to the US.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad that at least I didn't make that up. What was it like moving to the US without kids and without a husband, and then leaving the US and moving to the UK now with young kids and a husband? What was that like moving back home with you being so completely different?
Very good question. Because really, I'm still the same person inside.
Yes.
I just have a few more responsibilities.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, going through that, being a wife, having kids, living through all of that for those 16 years would have changed you, and you would have learned a lot. You would have, grown. What was that like coming back home with like all of us?
Well, anyone who's done this will understand what I mean, where things freeze in time. So I may have been out of England for 16 years, but my point of reference was England 16 years
Yes,
previously.
I totally appreciate that.
Everything to me had just frozen in time.
That's normal.
But that wasn't the actual case. I went to America as a young single with lots of dreams. I was going to do the American dream, and just nothing could stop me. And because I only had responsibility for me, I was in a very different situation. We were moving to the UK. You were British citizens.
Yes, because we do have two. Like, we are American and British, because you made sure that happened when we were born.
I did, absolutely.
You went to the British embassy in
registered
DC?
you. Yeah, registered you. I never gave up my passport in America. I was always God save the Queen.
Yes, you are.
And now God save the King. So moving back here, I had different responsibilities. Finances were really tight because it costs a lot to move countries. Anyone who's done it knows what I'm talking about. And I was exhausted. I was exhausted physically, I was exhausted mentally, and I was exhausted emotionally, because I was coming back on my own with you two.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because your dad said, move over in the June, I'll join you in the September, get them in school, and then I'll join you. In truth, and in actuality, it took 14 months before we actually saw them again.
Why is that long?
Oh, really, Victoria? Well, yes. Okay. Because the Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky thing had gone on, whereas Jürgen's retirement should have been able to be processed.
Because he did work for the government.
Yeah. Everything was put in freeze because everything was frozen. Nothing was happening.
All because Bill couldn't keep it in his pants.
Exactly. So I don't have a lot of time.
No, me neither.
For him. That really caused our family
so much grief.
Huge amount of grief.
Yeah.
So Jürgen was stuck in America for 14 months, and we were stuck in the UK for 14 months without a house.
Yes.
It was like going back in time, because we were back with my mum and dad, who were brilliant in supporting us, but they still were living in their lovely little bungalow.
Yeah, it's great if you're just two of you, but if you bring another family...
No, three, and so you and Nick were in a bedroom.
Your old one.
My old bedroom.
Yeah.
And I was sleeping on the floor of the lounge in a roll-out bed.
Yeah, I remember. It was very hard.
Yeah, you think you're going to do it for a week, which turns into a month.
Which turns into 6 months, which turns into a year.
Yeah, but you do what you have to do.
I have to say, your attitude, though, was always really good. And I know there were times where it was really hard for you because you were on your own and you had to look after Nick and I on your own, and you had to, like, do all that. But you still had such a good attitude. Even if some days you didn't, you would at least pretend to us like you did.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure there's lots of people watching this have gone through similar things. You do whatever you have to do for your children.
Yeah, true.
Whatever I was going through, I'd cry at night when you were asleep, but I didn't cry in front of you.
Yeah.
It's amazing when your world is very small. Like we came over with just our suitcases.
Yeah, we really did.
Our world was in our suitcases, and there's actually quite a lot of freedom in that because things and stuff weren't weighing in on us. We actually, I think, valued people and relationships and going out to play. And it's amazing what was free that I got you involved with.
Yeah.
That didn't cost money, but actually were wonderful, wonderful memories. I know for me it was hard because I had to get the business running over here for your dad and I, and that meant getting out of my comfort zone. It meant me having to pass my driving test.
Yeah. Because you're only legally allowed to drive here for a year.
Yeah.
With your American one.
Yeah. But it also meant me making friends again, because all my friends that I'd known growing up, we didn't have Facebook and stuff then.
Yeah, true.
I'd lost contact, so I made new friends and really treasure those friendships now and those memories.
What was the one thing you looked forward to doing as soon as you moved back home to the UK?
Being with mum and dad.
Yeah?
I missed family so much. I used to look at big American families and Christmases and all like different events because your dad was an only child.
Yeah.
So our family was very small, and I missed my extended family. I missed lots of my mum and dad's friends. I always referred to as auntie and uncle, even though they weren't blood relatives.
Yeah.
So I just missed all that, and I wanted to be back in family.
Was there one particular thing, aside from being with your mom and dad, was there one thing you looked forward to doing? Whether it was going to the grocery store, the bank, going to eat a certain meal, was there something that you really couldn't wait to do that perhaps was a very normal thing, but to you it was like, I've missed this for the last 16 years?
Well, I missed just doing things in England that I was familiar with.
Yeah.
I missed turning on the radio and hearing music that I'd grown up with.
Did you not have that in the US?
No, in the US there were so many radio stations and they didn't play the kind of music which I loved from the 70s, especially at the end of the 70s and early 80s. You know, in America there's a lot of country music.
And like golden oldies?
Yeah, or rock, like, you know, American rock with men with big hair and everything like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I really, really did miss that. Of course, English sports, because I love watching sports. I missed that.
Because you had easier like access to watching like Arsenal and things like that. And I remember when we moved over here, it was during the World Cup in France.
Yes.
LeBoeuf, Frank LeBoeuf. He has no hair, but we don't care. Frank LeBoeuf. I remember
He
that.
used to play for Chelsea though.
Yes, but we don't hold that against. I don't know. It's just something that has always stuck in my head.
Whenever England played, we used to make a real family get together with it, and that was really fun. And again, I was so excited to have you and Nick connecting with the wider family as well. You know, with your cousins and
Uncle Alan.
It was really, really important.
And it was really important for me actually to have Uncle Alan because Dad wasn't around for the first 14 months because he was stuck in the US. Yeah. So it was really important to have like him in my life.
But what I wanted to do is I wanted to come back to my hometown because when I left it, it's like it was a much smaller town. It's now a city, and you could go out shopping and you'd meet people that you went to school with, and you could just say hi to people. I knew people in America. I didn't have any history.
Yeah.
So I wanted to come back here and have history, and I thought, oh, this is going to be so great. I can go back and just do normal daily things. But actually, a lot had changed. And
like what?
And I missed some of the American things. Like, okay, so going to the supermarket or grocery store.
Yeah.
I remember not knowing where anything is.
Yeah.
So I got so used to going in America, knowing where everything was in different aisles, coming here, and shopping took me forever. And then I remember the first time I went to pay for the goods, and so the checkout person, just slid everything along, and it was all piling up there. And I just looked at her, she looked at me,
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
and I was like, well, why isn't she bagging it for me?
That's right, because in the US, they would bag the groceries while
Yeah, you know,
they checked you out.
Yeah, the big paper bags.
Bags, yeah.
And you don't touch them, it's their job.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there waiting for her to bag my groceries. And she's looking at me thinking, what is this woman doing? She's
Waiting.
just waiting. Then it clicked. I was going to have to
Oh, I forgot about that.
pack my groceries. And then I get out of the grocery store, supermarket, and I was used to leaving my trolley at the front of the shop, getting my car in America down some big car park, and you always drove up to the front of the shop, and another guy would put your groceries in the store.
That does not happen in the UK, let me tell you.
It did not happen. So I thought, oh, okay. And I started missing certain things about America. Then it happened in the bank.
Oh, yes.
So I was used to drive-through banking. And now it took me a while to get used to this in America, but the joys of drive-through banking, no matter the weather, you can, and no matter what you're wearing, you can just drive through to the teller, and it's got they sent over this cylinder through a chute, went shh.
I used to think it was so futuristic.
Yes.
Could you try again?
No, Siri. Stand down. Stand down.
You sent it back through this shh, and it went across the top, because
It was incredible.
there'd be several lanes of cars also doing this into the bank.
Yes.
And then your highlight was they would send with your paperwork back again a lollipop.
A lollipop, I remember.
Or a Tootsie Roll.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So a lollipop or a Tootsie Roll.
But it was so cool how it just went.
Yeah. So then I went to do banking in England.
It's not the same. There are no candies. There are no Tootsie Rolls or lollipops.
There's no drive-in.
Yeah.
And I'd even got used to drive-in dry cleaning, where
Yes.
you could drive in and they would take your dry cleaning and then drive through. So I really missed that. And there weren't even anything like driving through McDonald's then.
Yes.
But then again, I liked the fact that in my local bank, people knew my name.
Yeah.
And
Because you also used to work in a bank before you moved to the US.
I did, yes. So I enjoyed that. What else was different? Shopping was different.
Is it closed, the
Shops
shopping?
closed at early on a Saturday.
Obviously, especially where we used to live, there were malls everywhere. You had Nordstrom. You had not Nordstrom. What was that mall called? Tyson's Corner. You had Fair Oaks Mall. So we were used to shopping in malls, right? But in the UK, aside from a couple malls or a few malls that they do have here, it isn't mall shopping at all. It's high streets shopping. It's just very different. And I did not like it. You don't get the variety in the UK like you did in the US, although things have changed now. But
something else that was different, but I actually enjoyed more over here, and that was the GP.
what is a GP for people who don't know?
Well, in America you call it a general practitioner.
Yes, like your family doctor.
Your family doctor here. So we have the NHS here in the UK, and in America I had to have health insurance.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't go and see your internist or your doctor that you were under in the US, if you weren't feeling well, you had to go to the emergency room.
Yes,
where
you would also get charged, right?
Absolutely, yes. Whereas here, I could go and see my local GP and didn't get charged. It was free. Still back then, when you weren't well, the GP would come out and visit the house, and that's unheard
In the UK?
of. Yes, and that's unheard of. So I really miss the personal connection with the doctor here, which meant a lot and still means a lot. I'm still very, very pro our NHS. Having lived with both systems, I appreciate the NHS for general first line healthcare.
For sure.
I do appreciate so much our GPs and
they do an amazing
the
job,
nurses,
especially after all COVID.
Yeah.
And everything. Do you remember your first meal back in the UK?
No.
Okay, what was the first meal that you remember having in the UK? And you're like, oh yes, now I'm back home.
Probably roast dinner, my mum's roast dinner.
I just find roast dinner so bland.
No, they're comforting. No. I realised I was back home when I had my mum's roast dinner.
That's the issue. Like, no offense to any British people.
But you know you're offending us right now by saying that.
I really think that British food is very bland. You also like hot food, so this is the thing that I don't get, because you are a spice head like me.
I think the British menu now is so integrated with so many different world.
It is now,
foods.
but I'm talking like
Back then.
20 years ago.
Yeah, fish fingers. You
Ah!
no.
I would say the only comforting British meal is fingers and mash.
Yeah, you do like your
I do.
sausages. You are a girl who likes her sausages.
Like mother, like daughter.
Indeed. Although I much prefer English sausages to American.
Hey!
Oh, I can't stand hot dogs.
I don't know how
Oh.
I'm meant to take that.
No, hot dogs
Oh, you
are
mean food?
vile. What? Victoria!
So you don't like hot dogs?
Yes, I don't like hot dogs.
I
have
thought
to
you
say.
said yes.
No,
Yes, I do.
hot dogs I find are an acquired taste, and I certainly don't like them. No, I like English sausages.
We'll leave that one there. Did you find the cost of things, the cost of living, very different compared to how you lived in the US?
Yes, that was a huge shock because my money was in dollars, and at that time the dollar-pound ratio was definitely not to my advantage. It was a disadvantage.
yeah.
So the dollar was very weak and didn't go very far. You could get a fantastic house in America for a certain point. You could fill up your shopping trolley with food. Clothes were much cheaper.
Yes, they were much cheaper.
And we came here, and housing was
Everything.
is still
Yeah, it's still
outrageous.
extremely expensive. Like, I think people in the US don't get that. Like, you can spend a fortune on a house here that would get you a very large house in the US with land and a huge yard. And over here, it would only get you a
Terraced house.
like, you're joined up with other houses.
It's location. It's very hard for probably Americans to understand how much living in a certain place and being able to access good schools in England. People want to live close to good schools. It needs to be commutable near railway stations, because in America, okay, there are some people that use the railway network, but it's not like in the UK where
That is true.
The
It's
rail
very different.
network is used far more, and I love it over here.
Yeah, no, it is actually good.
Yeah, it's really
like it's
good.
a very easy like to go into like London.
Going to London's fantastic.
Or even up north, you just get on a train and you go. Whereas in the US, people don't use trains in such a regular way.
Correct.
You said something about schooling.
Yeah.
I found the schooling here very different, and I had a bit of a culture shock, and this lasted for years. I hated school here. Whereas,
Sorry.
it was not your fault, but in the US, I thrived and I loved school. Over here, I hated it. And I think a lot of it was because I was naive as an 11-year-old. The culture and what was going to be expected of me was going to be the same as in the US as it was here, and it was completely different. The school I went to was not great, in my view. The teachers were mean. They would yell at you and throw things. The kids loved me for the first couple years because, you know, I was this like alien with like an accent, and I was kind of made to be cool in that way for like a while. But then when the novelty like ended, like kids were so mean to me because I was so different and I had been raised in such a different way, and it was really hard. And I think that when moving countries, people need to be aware that for the kids, the schooling thing is going to be so different. And to not just assume that just because maybe you speak the same language, things are going to be the same or as easy. And it really wasn't. I hated it here. And I think that's what made me hate living in the UK for so long, because the schooling was just so different. And the culture and I did not agree.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault.
A great sadness to me that you experienced that.
Well, but silver lining is it made me more resilient. It made me more aware of who I was and what I believed. It just made me stronger, even having to go through that. So in a way, it did help me in life. But yeah, it's just very different.
Any parent here knows that I'm sitting here thinking, I wish I could have turned back the clock, and I wish I could have sent you to a different school, and I would in hindsight. But at the time,
You did the best that you could.
I thought I was doing the right thing for you, which turned out not to be the right thing, but I wasn't aware of that.
But at least Nick really enjoyed schooling here.
But he wasn't the academic that you are. Nick's a social butterfly. They were just wanting him to say like what Joey says on
How you doing?
Say how are you doing? Yeah, that's all. They just wanted him to act like Joey, and so he was having a great time.
Yeah, and he was also a little bit older.
Yeah,
which might have been good and bad. I don't know. But yeah, school was completely different here. So always make sure that you ask your kids honestly how they are, as you did with me. And just make sure that they're okay, because bullying is real, especially if you are a foreigner coming to another country. Bullying happens. It might not happen the first year or two, but it can happen afterwards, as I witnessed myself. Don't feel bad. This is not for you to feel bad. This is just being honest.
Yeah.
You had your own rough, you had your own rough patch when you moved over here.
Yeah. Moving countries isn't easy.
No, it is not glamorous. No. It is not like, oh, you can have a new adventure. It's tough. Because it's not like going on vacation. Like when you live somewhere, you live there.
True.
What do you miss about the US?
I miss a lot about the US. Wherever I was living, I could make home, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you were very good at that.
I decided wherever I was going to be, as in be fully present. I miss, funnily enough, 4th of July.
Yeah.
I miss celebrating 4th of July. I miss Thanksgiving in America.
Though I really appreciated us always having Thanksgiving here.
Yeah.
I know we had to miss a couple years because of Dad, and it all happened around then. Even if it wasn't the same, we still did something.
Yeah, so we decided that when we moved here that we would share Thanksgiving with somebody in England, a family or a couple of people that had meant a lot to us that year, had been a blessing to our family, and we wanted to say thank you. So I think I added up, and there was almost 50 people from when your dad was alive, from when we got here until when he passed away, that we actually invited to our home. Obviously not all at once, 50 people, but over the years we shared the Thanksgiving celebration with other people. And
tell them the story about Nick and the wine, please.
Oh my gosh. So we just moved to this new house, and
it was in a new area.
It was a new area. We didn't know anybody, but I thought, I'm going to find somebody that we can share Thanksgiving with, and they can just really enjoy it with us. So I went next door. We'd only said a couple of words to them,
which is very British to not really say anything to people.
But they came round, and Nick had been training as a barman while he was working his way through university, and it was like light grey white walls around this room, and the lady was sitting opposite me, and just her whole face changed because I couldn't see what was going on. But Nick had decided to serve the red wine by doing a bottle spin and giving it the old flourish. And with it, as he was doing that, he created a red wine mottled masterpiece all over the wall, and I couldn't see what was going on.
And you couldn't see it, but the lady, her face was and they didn't speak to us after.
They left the house, said thank you very much, we had a lovely time.
They seemed nice and
never spoke to us again. So anyway, the whole point is share your traditions from your country, bring them with you.
Especially if you have kids.
Yeah, and share them with other families. Let us understand your culture, because that is so important. There's so much that we can learn from each other and enjoy sharing in our different traditions.
I totally agree with that.
Which is really important. What else do I miss about America? I miss just being able to drive to the beautiful beaches.
Yeah. Well, you have Cornwall now.
I have Cornwall, yes. And actually, I think the Cornish beaches are better than any American beaches.
There's no sand.
You must be joking. There's miles
it's cold.
No, there's miles of sand in Cornwall.
It's cold.
It's absolutely fantastic.
It's cold.
For anyone who's not been to Cornwall, anyone in America, visit Cornwall. Enjoy the beaches. Absolutely phenomenal. I should work for the Cornish Tourist Board.
You should. They should pay you.
Yeah.
I love going to Florida for sun, sea, sand,
shopping,
food,
seafood.
Oh.
I miss seafood.
Yeah. They even if a British restaurant advertises seafood over here, don't believe them, in my view.
I miss all you can eat American seafood buffets.
Seafood done right.
Yes.
King crab. I remember when I turned 30, you and I went to Florida.
Yes.
And for my 30th birthday meal, which is, special and, usually you go all out, we went to a place in Florida. I can't remember what it was called.
It's a crab shack.
No, it wasn't exactly a crab shack. It's a quite a nice restaurant.
was.
And we just got a massive plate of Alaskan king crab. And that was my meal, and I absolutely adored it. I think we had like fries and stuff, but yeah, it was the best. That was really good. I liked that. It must have been weird when you came back home that you couldn't drive. You couldn't legally drive. I know you were allowed to have your license for a year.
Yes, but I was driving on the other, not the wrong side of the road, but the other side of the road. From what I'd learnt in.
Was that weird for you to drive on the left and not the right?
No, because suddenly it clicks in. When you grow up, you're taught
what's the left or the right, whatever.
Road safety, and it clicked back for me very quickly.
Huh. Even for me, sometimes, especially if I come to a junction and I have to turn, sometimes I start to freak out and think, am I going in the right or am I going in the left?
Oh, don't forget, in America, in some states, you can turn right
on red.
On a red light.
Yeah, you can't do that here.
No, you shouldn't be in the right lane anyway. You should be
but
you can't turn on a left on a red light.
And also over here, you have to deal with roundabouts.
But roundabouts are wonderful.
They are when you learn them. When I first was learning how to drive, roundabouts scared me because even though I lived here for a few years, to me, the concept of them was just completely weird.
In America, you call them traffic circles.
Yeah, but they're kind of rare.
And I remember when your dad went to work, first day he was working in the UK, he went up to the big roundabout, top of our road, and he went round it the wrong way.
Yeah, that does not surprise me.
He did not kill himself. And
I've seen Nick actually do that.
And he had this strange, maybe it's American thought, who gets to the roundabout first wins.
But maybe that's a man thing, though.
Ooh, Victoria, that's a very sensitive...
Did you ever think you made a mistake moving back here? Was there ever a moment when you were like, was this a mistake?
When you're a parent, there are those moments when you've hit a wall with things. And I think for me, it was, I'd been living in my parents' house for a year.
Yeah.
I didn't have my own car, didn't have my own house. I was sleeping on the floor of the lounge. So not much privacy at all. My husband was in America, so I was really acting like a single parent.
Yeah, you were, you had to.
Money was tight, very, very tight. And
because moving countries is expensive.
But also I wasn't working because I kept thinking Dad was going to come here. Yeah. We were going to go and develop our business, do this, do that. And it was, and I remember thinking, have I made a huge mistake? Seeing you two like sharing a tiny bedroom, especially what we'd left in America, which was a big house,
beautiful house. Yeah.
You had a great lifestyle out there.
Yeah, we did.
But sometimes you have to go through these things, and sometimes I wish I could go around them. And some of you might know what I'm talking about at the moment. You're facing a challenge, and you've got to go through it. There's no going around it, but going through it. And it was the local people that we were with really helped
us all.
Yeah. But I went out and got different jobs. Yeah. I just decided I was a manager of a wedding shop for a bit.
Were, yeah.
I'd never done that in my life.
You're incredibly brave and courageous because most people might have thought, this is uncomfortable, I'm scared, I don't want to go out and do that, I don't want to go and do something that I don't know how to actually do, or I've not had a job for years and I'm scared. But you just went out and did it because you didn't have a choice.
No, I think you have to do what you have to do, and most people would do what I had to do. I worked I ran an off license, which is a liquor store, which, if those of you know me and I like wine and gin, that's a dangerous combination.
Yes.
I didn't drink the profits, I promise you. But and I remember how frightened I was closing up this off-license liquor store at closing at 10 o'clock, and I had to cash up, and I was all by myself.
Yeah, you had to do a lot. You just went and did it. Like, you had all these jobs that you had no experience in, but you just are so amazing at how once you just decide that you're going to do it, you just do it.
Thank you.
So Mom, I would say you're the heartbeat of our family. No crying. And I think you always will be. But what was it like as a mom having to move all of us here? and having to be responsible for kids, but also trying to adjust to life back home yourself, but having to worry about everyone else and how the different pieces would fit.
I'm talking to the mums here. Mums know that you would do whatever you have to do to make sure that your children are well cared for, happy. I was just very innovative.
Yeah.
You can get lots of stuff secondhand, and honestly, even kids of 10, 11 years old, that you didn't know what was secondhand.
No.
And what wasn't. You become very grateful for the things that you do have, and time, because your kids spell love Time. It's not what you can buy them. It's not sitting them in front of a TV
or a screen.
Mm-hmm. It's actually your time, and whether that's making sure that you read stories before they go to bed, you go for walks, there's so much that you can do for free in this country. It's absolutely amazing. Join other parent groups and seek out other people, possibly who are going through similar things to yourself. And I did that at church. It was a great group of people, and they could see that, particularly for Nick, he was in this country without his dad, had no male figure, and I remember Andrew taking him down the local park and teaching him cricket. For an American, that's quite hard, because Nick went up to bat, lifted his bat up like he was going to be in baseball, and of course got bowled out. But things like joining brownies and cubs and scouts and all kinds of things like that, just getting your children involved in activities, and football. I mean, I know
for me, because I didn't do like brownies, I was too involved in
football.
Yeah.
And we got to meet a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of people that way. So sports is a great way of connecting. But
how did you connect, or how did you get your needs met? Because you were looking after everyone else, but it would have been a huge move for you to move back home.
Yeah.
Because you had grown up in the US in your adult life as a wife and as a mom.
Yeah. I felt like I didn't know my country anymore. Which is
I
very,
totally
very
relate to
strange.
that.
The England I left 16 years before was not the one that
You came back to.
Yes. All my friends seem to have moved on, and it is a very, very hard place to be, where you see everybody moving on in their careers, nice homes, and you actually look like you have gone back, because you're now living back at your parents' house. And the thing that you have to focus on is making the best of today, and not worrying about what's going to be happening next week, the week after, and not saying, well, I wish I'd done things differently, because hindsight is a wonderful thing, but you cannot go back. But actually saying today, what can I do today? What is it that I can do with the kids today?
Yeah.
What is it I can do for me today? And again, it's very small things, but you have to be nice to yourself as well. You have to give yourself time, and I didn't. So I remember I actually felt like I had a bit of a breakdown.
Yeah.
I hit a wall, and I felt like I couldn't take anymore. And that's because I was trying to carry everything myself, and I wasn't sharing it with anybody. So that was a big mistake. That I thought I had to be perfect. I had to be the perfect mum, the perfect daughter, the perfect person in business. Well, actually, I was drowning.
You were in your 30s, right? Because I feel like recently that's something that I've been continually trying to learn in my 30s, is to actually allow myself time for me, to stop trying to take care of everything or everyone else, and actually learn to have balance.
Yeah.
And to do things for me, to look after me, because I'm sure as a mom, you're no good to your kids if you are a complete wreck.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to look after you first in order to be strong enough and have what you need to look after them.
Yeah. Honestly, I wish, now I know the benefits of counselling.
Yeah, therapy is just incredible.
I wish I could have gone and had some counselling.
But back then, that was not so much of a norm.
No, it wasn't.
But
looking back, I was very young.
Yeah, incredibly. I mean, how old were you?
I was 38.
So you were Nick's age now?
No.
Yeah, when you moved over here. And 30 is actually very young.
It is very young to have. I had teenagers. I'd moved country twice. And I thought my life was over. I thought I'd made a big mistake. I thought I was a failure in what I had achieved. But actually, looking back now, it actually made me stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I realised what things were important to me. And then I used that as a launch pad to develop my business and to go forward. And no matter what age you are, it's not too late.
Yeah.
You still, while you have breath, you have so much that you can achieve. And you're always telling me that.
Yeah, because
Now.
because we just had Mother's Day, and I remember writing in your card, like, just because you are 62 years old and you look phenomenal, and you look and you seem so much younger, that just because you are that age, life is not done, and you have so much to offer and so much to give. And like, whatever age, you could be 80, you could be 90, you could be 100, and you could still have an impact.
Hence why I'm sitting here today.
Out of your comfort zone?
Totally. And
But you're doing great.
And doing something that, well, you're just so brilliant at.
No, you are. You're natural. For me, I feel like I have to work at it. But you are very natural. What did you find the most challenging when you moved back here to your home in the UK that you were actually surprised what felt or was so hard?
How expensive everything was.
So like living in your means, like having enough for food, being able to get a house, and all of that was just crazy new and completely different.
Yeah. England is a very expensive place to live.
Yeah.
And
very, very expensive.
Especially if you're coming to England, and I was still, I had money coming in from America, so it was dollars. So if your home currency isn't strong enough,
Yes.
you're at a disadvantage already.
Because Dad used to get paid his retirement, and in the US it would have been the full amount, but because of the currency and everything, he always just got half of what he earned, which is crazy.
Yeah. So I would say the cost of living was the biggest shock.
Yeah. Would you have done anything completely different from your move in the US as an expat to then moving back home again? Would you have done anything differently? And why?
I wouldn't have brought so much stuff with us. Your father.
My dad liked to collect stuff. The thing is though, when we moved over here from the US, for over a year, all we had
Suitcases.
were the things that we left the US with. So a suitcase, that's all we had.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I think a year or just over a year on, we got this
Container
of stuff. And I was really happy because I was surrounded by things that I knew and that meant a lot to me, but we also brought a lot of crap, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think I totally agree. Like, be very specific and intentional about the things that you love, the things that you want to bring if you're moving to another
I wish I'd edited my life, our things, a lot more. And I wish I'd actually spoken up more, because I didn't speak up enough.
Because that was the generation, that was the way of living in the US.
Yeah. I found my voice more over here.
Yeah.
So I would say the other thing, I wouldn't be so hard on myself.
Yes, you and I are very good at being hard on ourselves.
I wouldn't be so hard on myself, and I would have given myself more of a 5-year plan when we first moved here, instead of thinking that I could achieve everything
at once
and provide everything for you and get the life that we needed quickly, because it seemed like I was always trying to catch up with myself.
Yes.
And that actually puts a negative motivation on
and it's stress and strain.
Yeah, absolutely. So believe in yourself more. And I had so many skills that I'd learnt in America that I could have easily brought to a project over here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it is the same for you, that you have things that you've learnt and ways of dealing with people, or skills that you've got that you could bring to a corporation or an organisation, or whatever it is you're looking for. So don't sell yourself short. You may not meet the qualifications that they're looking for within the job here in England as like what they say they're looking for, but go in there and say, look, these are what I have, my skills. And it may not match exactly, but I actually feel that I do have the skill set necessary, but it may not have the qualifications, because I never went to university, but I have.
You're incredibly smart.
People skills.
Yeah,
and,
you really do.
Business skills.
Yeah.
And I found being my own boss in the UK far better than me looking for employment.
Yes.
I loved making a difference, and I'm willing to work hard. I'm sure a lot of you are willing to work hard too, but I wanted to work hard for me, the boss. Once I got into that rhythm, that's when I found the fulfillment. Our income changed, our life circumstances
And you were happier
changed.
too.
And I was happy, yeah, because I was being fulfilled. And I was actually being fulfilled as me, not just as the wife or the mum.
Yeah, because I think especially women can get lost in their role as either a mom or a wife, especially a mom, and you almost lose who you are. And I mean, I'm not a mom yet, but I can see that from what I saw of you, you at some point got lost in that role
I did.
of being a mom.
You can see photos of me.
Yes. Maybe we'll show some.
Put on a lot of weight. And I just didn't care about me because I thought nobody else cared about me.
And it's incredible because you now, 62 years old, look younger. And this is me not just being completely biased. This is true. No, this is true. You look so much younger now than you did at 38 years old moving here. Because I could see that's true. For a couple years, or for a few years, you were very unhappy. And that ages you.
Yeah.
And you look so much younger now.
Thank you.
Like, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you happy that you moved here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am so happy, especially when I think of all the life things that have happened to us, losing your dad. I can't imagine being a widow, being in America, being away from my family and friends. I've enjoyed being able to work in Europe. And
yeah, it is nice having that right here.
No, I love it here.
See, I find it very hard because my heart still feels very American, and I'm extremely used to life here in the UK. I have this feeling that I'm an alien both in the US and both here in the UK. I feel like I don't have a home because I'm so miss the US, but for me, like you were saying before, it's frozen in time. It's obviously going to be a completely different US than when I left.
Totally.
It's completely different. But like, I also still feel like a foreigner here, even though I've been here for 25 years, or close to. So I feel like I don't belong anywhere. And I guess my home is wherever you are.
Oh, ditto.
So we'll go back to the US then.
No, no way.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching this podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you click on that like and also subscribe for more episodes, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for watching.